Lenny had no idea how old he was. He remembered his age when he died, 18, but had no way of knowing how long he had been a ghost. That's the thing about ghosts. They don't comprehend the passing of time. Sure, they witness the rising and setting of the sun and can still read clocks, but to a ghost, each day is just like the one before and indistinguishable from the one that follows. That's why they get along so well with dogs. More on that later. But as I was saying, Lenny was unsure of how long he had been dead. He had some clues, though. He had been killed by a horse-drawn carriage, but the house in which he currently resided contained a 72-inch flat-screen television, which indicated he had been deceased for a considerable amount of time. Lenny was just like any other ghost, but upon further inspection, it became apparent that most people didn't really know anything about them. What we usually see in horror films isn't entirely accurate. The truth is that most ghosts prefer to stay in the same place they died, rarely ever leaving it. They usually don't have any ill intentions, and simply just want to exist without being noticed. Lenny was no different. He never wanted to disturb the people he shared a home with, and instead would just observe them like a spectator watching a soap opera. He also enjoyed the special connection he had with the family dogs. You see, dogs can detect the presence of ghosts in a way that humans cannot. No one is sure why, but it is generally accepted as true. This anomaly can be seen as a beneficial situation for both the ghosts and the dogs. Ghosts can take comfort in their interactions with the living, and dogs appear to enjoy the company of a ghostly companion. If you ever see a dog barking at seemingly nothing, it is likely that they are engaging in a conversation with the spirit of the home. Alright, so I was telling you about my friend Lenny. He's a really funny guy and always keeps me entertained. He's also very kind and generous. He's always there for me when I need a shoulder to lean on or an ear to listen. He's a great friend, and I'm really glad to have him in my life. Lenny had been a resident of the house on Elm Street since his birth. 18 years later, he passed away, but his spirit continued to inhabit the house. For the next 18 years, Lenny lived peacefully in his old home until the Johnsons moved in and everything changed. The Johnson family, Roger, Mary, and their daughter Anna, were incredibly kind and warm-hearted people. They were usually quiet, but watching them was a joy. They also had a beloved mutt named Baxter, who delighted in digging in the dirt and barking at Lenny. Lenny had no interest in the digging, since ghosts don't tend to care much about holes. He was fond of Baxter, however, who was always ready for a conversation. For the initial years after the Johnsons took up residence, Lenny felt a joy he had not known since his passing. The Johnsons were a kind and welcoming family, and Anna had blossomed into a stunning 17-year-old woman since her arrival as a 15-year-old. For all the years that he had been dead, Lenny had never made his presence known. He did not want to scare his loved ones, and it was widely known that humans do not typically like ghosts. He knew that even though people may have enjoyed the cartoon character Casper, he was not a true ghost. Even though cartoons can add to the misconceptions about ghosts, that was beside the point. What mattered was that Lenny's decision to stay concealed had shifted due to Anna. Lenny had been eager for his very first date, but he never made it to the Friday night dance. Tragically, he was killed on his way there, and so he never had the chance to experience the kind of love a young man feels for a young woman. His ghostly heart was deeply smitten with Anna, though he had never had the opportunity to express his feelings. Lenny knew that he and Anna could never be together, but he still felt compelled to try and talk to her. He knew it wasn't as hard as it seemed for a ghost to make themselves known, contrary to popular belief portrayed in movies. All Lenny had to do was speak to her, though there was one problem. Anna could hear him, but she couldn't see him. While it was difficult for a human to get a girl to like them, it was nearly impossible for an invisible ghost. Despite this, Lenny was determined to give it a try. In the 2 years the Johnsons resided in Lenny's home, he had never gone into Anna's bedroom when she was alone. Though he was not a true officer and a gentleman, he did behave as a ghost and a gentleman. Whenever Roger or Mary, or both, were present, Lenny had been in the room. However, he would depart as soon as they did. Tonight is not the night. Lenny had no idea what to expect when he approached the human. He had never interacted with a person before, and he was apprehensive about what might go wrong. He was a ghost, and this was his first time communicating with someone from the living world. He was both excited and nervous about what might happen. When it was time for Anna to go to bed, Lenny and Baxter visited her room and took a seat in her wingback chair. Although ghosts can do things that people can't, such as walking through walls and flying, they can still do normal things, like sitting in chairs. So that's exactly what Lenny did, and he and Baxter sat together for a while. It made Anna feel a little better knowing that she wasn't alone. Sitting in the chair with Baxter beside him, Lenny spoke for the first time in a century. His voice, having been unheard for such a long time, filled the room with a strange sensation of joy. "Hi, my name is Lenny and I am a spirit who inhabits this residence with you." Lenny was known for being outspoken and blunt. He made his presence known without hesitation. To his surprise, Anna responded with an air of tranquility. "Hello, I'm Anna. It's so nice to meet you at last." Lenny was unaware that the Johnsons were a family of psychics. From the moment they moved into the house, they sensed a presence. Despite this, they were delighted to have Lenny living with them. The Johnsons understood that ghosts were generally harmless, and they were familiar with the idea of dogs and spirits getting along. It seemed natural that Baxter and Lenny should be friends. From that day on, Lenny became an unofficial member of the family. He would take part in family movie nights and play Monopoly with them. He always chose to be the top hat piece. Although Lenny never vocalized his feelings for Anna, she could sense them, and on her own she felt a certain fondness for him as well. The Johnson family had been happily living together for almost a year, but eventually their joy came to an end. During Anna's junior year of high school, a priest moved in next door. This priest was no ordinary priest. He specialized in exorcisms. It seemed ironic that the worst possible neighbor for a ghost would be an exorcist, but that would be a paradox. Therefore, the Johnsons' secret was now a major issue that had to be resolved. In order to ensure the safety of Lenny, Anna and Lenny decided to attend a boarding school located a few hours away. This boarding school could provide them with the security they needed, and they would be able to return home after the priest had moved away. Anna was thrilled to have the opportunity to practice being an adult, while Lenny was equally excited by the prospect of spending their time in an old Gothic manor. After all, what ghost doesn't dream of a vacation in a Gothic manor? Anna and Lenny were overjoyed with their year at boarding school, and their bond grew stronger as they spent more time together. Anna attended her classes during the day, while Lenny roamed the grounds of the manor. This is one of the many tales that prove to be accurate. Ghosts adore old, dark Gothic manors, just like a surfer loves the beach, or someone who loves mountains prefers the mountain range. They both cherished their new home. Every night, Anna would brew her mother's old coffee pot and the hot plate provided by the school to make herself a cup of coffee. While sipping on the beverage, she worked on her assignments with Lenny by her side. Throughout history, there have been many stories of star-crossed lovers who have been unable to be together for some reason or another. Romeo and Juliet, Scarlett and Ashley, and Wesley and Buttercup are some of the most well-known tales of unrequited love. The difficulty of having a relationship with someone who is no longer living is especially challenging. As the final semester of school drew to a close, Anna and Lenny added their own story of lost love to the long list of such tales. And then the flames appeared, blazing brightly and consuming everything in their path. One of the well-known dangers of Gothic manors is their flammability. Every object in them is highly combustible, so a single spark can cause a devastating fire in an instant. In fact, an old hot plate with worn-out wiring has the potential to be a major source of ignition. Sadly, this is what ended up causing a tragic manor fire. Anna was staying up all night to prepare for her final exam, a challenge common among many teenagers today. To make it through the night, she turned on the stove and set a pot to boil. Then, she sat back down at her desk to resume her studies, relying on coffee to get her through. She hadn't been paying attention when it happened. She had been engrossed in her book and didn't notice the spark falling next to the pot. It wasn't until she looked up that she saw the flame. It had already grown large enough to fill the counter and was spreading quickly. She was now trapped in her third-story room, with no way out. Ghosts may not be considered the most cheerful of supernatural beings, but they still have certain abilities. One of these abilities is the ability to reanimate for a brief period of time. Unfortunately, this comes at a great cost, as it drains their energy and causes them to be extinguished for good. Although this fact is not widely known, it has happened twice in the past. Tonight will mark the third time a ghost has used this power. Lenny was elated to be a ghost, having experienced life with numerous families and knowing many dogs. He had never felt love until he encountered Anna, and he was unwilling to let her perish. With a deep and lasting devotion, Lenny resurrected himself, swept Anna in his arms, and ran to the front courtyard, away from the raging flames. For the first time, Anna had the chance to embrace Lenny in her arms. She kissed him with a passion she had never felt before, pouring out all her love for him into that one moment. She was amazed and delighted that he was actually real, but was soon met with the harsh reality of the consequences of Lenny's choice. Anna was overwhelmed with emotion, and with tears streaming down her cheeks, she asked him, "How long do we have together?" He replied with an agonizing response that it would take no longer than 5 minutes. The words she heard were like a sharp blade piercing through her chest. She was aware that she and Lenny could never be together in the way she wanted, but she always thought he would be there for her no matter what. Now all that time she expected to share was limited to a mere 5 minutes. The two star-crossed lovers, wanting to make the most of the time they had left together, sat down, held hands, and looked deeply into each other's eyes. Anna wanted to etch every detail of Lenny's face into her memory, and Lenny wanted to savor the feeling of Anna's touch for as long as possible. Lenny's death was like a fog fading away. Little by little, his face and his touch became more and more distant, until eventually he was gone. Anna felt the emptiness in her heart as she watched him slip away, and just before his final moments, she heard his voice one last time. "I care for you deeply, more than anything else in the world." He abruptly departed, and his presence was no longer there. For the remainder of her life, Anna found solace and comfort in the love of her husband. Together, the two of them had a son whom Anna named Lenny. Each time she looked into her son's eyes, Anna saw a secret reminder of her first love, her first kiss, and the other Lenny she had once known.